They started out 24-1. Ever since then, they're 18-13.
The Thunder are not that dominant at this moment to be in that position right now.
Oklahoma City's not fading into the twilight. They won't go away easily. They're not going to nosedive and fall off the map and suddenly not become a championship contender. But I could see them losing this year to the field and coming back next year.
Have you ever seen hype collapse right before your eyes? For the first stretch of the 2026 NBA season, one team had the entire league in a chokehold, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They weren't just winning, they were steamrolling everyone in sight. Offense, defense, energy, every angle was theirs.
Is the gap that much bigger now between the Thunder and every other team in the NBA?
From tip-off to the final buzzer, games felt decided before the first time out. It got so lopsided that nobody was asking who could beat them anymore. People were asking where this squad ranked among the greatest of all time. The Thunder weren't just dominant, they looked untouchable. Almost like a team playing on a different level altogether. But then, everything changed. That night marked the day their invincibility shattered. Final score, 138-89. Oklahoma City didn't just beat the Phoenix Suns, they humiliated them. And this wasn't some random mid-season matchup either. It was an elimination game in the NBA's in-season tournament, basically the league's version of a Game 7 in December.
I think they're more dominant than that Warriors team. Not the one with KD. I'm talking about the one that had this record. The one that had this record and had KD. I think they're better than that team.
Stakes were sky high, and OKC showed no mercy. They didn't just win.
Inside Holmgren.
They embarrassed a playoff-bound Suns team by 49 points. 49! To this day, that's still the largest blowout of the 2026 season. To really grasp that gap, imagine an average college team playing against the reigning WNBA champions. That's the level of domination we're talking about here. But the score wasn't the main story. The message was, this wasn't just a statement win, it was a league-wide warning. OKC was saying loud and clear, you're not ready for us.
Are we witnessing right now the most dominant team in NBA history?
They are guaranteed to win the championship if they're healthy.
100%. They are going to absolutely, barring injury, shatter the all-time wins record this year.
That was win number 24 out of their first 25 games, tying a record only one other team ever reached, the legendary 2016 Warriors, the 73-win juggernaut. From that point, no one could ignore the Thunder. They weren't just an offensive storm, they were a defensive nightmare, suffocating every play, every possession, giving opponents zero room to breathe. The numbers told the whole story. Net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating, even the deep-cut analytics most fans never bother to check. Every single stat screamed the same thing. This OKC squad wasn't just great, it was terrifying. The data didn't suggest greatness, it shouted it in bold letters. When a team dominates both ends of the floor, wins the efficiency war every possession, and sits at the top of every advanced metric. That's not luck or a hot streak. That's a full-blown system built to crush teams from every angle the box score can track, and even a few it can. Once those numbers hit the internet, everything blew up. Social media went wild, slicing up clips, flashing graphs, and comparing OKC's dominance to every powerhouse in history. The takes got louder, the hype got crazier. People weren't calling this a strong start. They were calling it historic. Fans started throwing out predictions like 78-4 or 79-3 and saying that 74-8 would be their worst-case scenario. That's how deep the obsession ran. Just think about that. People were seriously calling this the greatest basketball team of all time. Better than Jordan's Bulls, better than KD and Steph's Warriors. Vegas wasn't far behind either. Odds makers gave OKC minus 140 to win over 69.5 games, which basically meant a 58% shot at joining the ultra-exclusive 70-win club. On top of that, a 21% chance to hit 74 or more, and nearly a 15% chance to win 75 plus. Those are odds reserved for legends. And the craziest part, people weren't just talking, they were putting down real money. Fans were betting hard cash that OKC would run through the league for 6 straight months, turning the NBA into their personal highlight reel. But anyone bold enough to take that bet? They were about to find out the hard way that hype doesn't always pay, and sometimes the lesson comes with a very expensive receipt. Before we go any further, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd really appreciate the feedback. And if you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It may seem small, but it really helps support the channel. December 13th, the in-season tournament semifinals. The whole NBA world was locked in for this one. The matchup, Oklahoma City Thunder versus the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs came in hot at 17-7, playing like a 60-win squad. But the real story wasn't the record. It was the return of Victor Wembanyama stepping back onto the court after missing 12 games with an injury. Vegas didn't blink. OKC were still heavy favorites, so much that you had to bet $500 just to win $100. And at first it looked like the odds were spot on. The Thunder came out blazing, fast, focused, and ruthless. This wasn't just another game. This was the semifinals. Win this, then win the next, and every player on OKC's roster would walk away with about $500,000 after taxes. For some of those guys, that's nearly a 25% raise for just 2 games of work. No one needed extra motivation. They were sitting at 24-1, almost untouchable. You could feel the confidence buzzing through the arena. Minutes into the game, OKC had already doubled San Antonio's score. A few possessions later, they were tripling it. By the end of the first quarter, it was obvious OKC was on another planet. But then came the question everyone was asking. Could Victor Wembanyama actually shift this? The answer came fast. Wemby didn't need a scoring explosion. His mere presence changed everything. Suddenly, OKC's rhythm broke. The drives that usually came easy started looking awkward. Their spacing got tighter. The whole geometry of the court bent around him. Wherever he stood, the Thunder had to adjust. You could almost feel the momentum slipping away, like the air being pulled out of the room. In that moment, the game tilted towards San Antonio. Wembanyama never said it outright, but on the floor it looked personal, like he had a point to prove against OKC. Before anyone realized what was happening, the Spurs had stolen the lead, and suddenly it was the Thunder who looked frantic and unsure. This was supposed to be that team, the one chasing the ghost of the 73-win Warriors, rewriting the history books and proving dominance could be engineered. But on that night, all that talk got humbled. Victor Wembanyama wasn't just beating OKC with height and skill, he was dismantling them mentally, piece by piece. Every possession felt like a test they couldn't pass. And when the final buzzer hit, one image said everything. OKC players crowding the refs, arms out, faces tight, begging for a call that wasn't coming. If you've watched even a handful of OKC games this season, you know the rep. Around the league, fans and players whisper the same thing. They always get the call. It's like the refs treat them with invisible padding. Light contact, whistle, loose ball, whistle. Meanwhile, the same stuff happening on the other end gets ignored. You could see it in highlight reels. Fouls that had no business being fouls. For months, people rolled their eyes and said, "Here we go again." But not this time. Against the Spurs, the whistle stopped. For once, OKC had to survive without help, and the crowd could feel it. The energy shifted. Suddenly, every no call felt like justice. The word that kept echoing across fan bases was unethical. Seeing OKC finally stripped of that cushion felt electric. The internet exploded with reactions, memes, and that one viral comment that summed it all up. I speak for 29 fan bases. Thank you, Wemby. That night, the refs didn't save them, the numbers didn't matter, and all the advanced metrics in the world couldn't explain what just happened. OKC walked off the court 24-2, still an incredible record. But the aura was cracked. That invisible shield of invincibility everyone had felt, it wasn't just scratched, it was gone. And the craziest part, no one realized how deep that loss cut. It didn't just sting, it shifted the entire mood of the season. The Thunder still had the talent, the chemistry, the swagger, but something inside them had been shaken loose. That game over before it starts energy disappeared. Opponents stopped fearing them. You could see it in their eyes. Teams were now playing to win, not to survive. And OKC, they started moving differently too. Less confident, more tense, like they were trying to prove something instead of owning the court like before. The machine was still running on it, but the gears didn't sound the same. The league could sense it. The Thunder's perfect storm had finally hit resistance. The first real hit after that crack came from Minnesota. A gritty game where every possession felt heavier than it should for a team that was supposed to be cruising. OKC competed, but it wasn't that suffocating control they showed earlier in the season. That slow, steady chokehold where opponents stopped believing. Minnesota never folded. They kept pressing, kept attacking, and when it was time to close, OKC hesitated. Final score, 112-107. Another loss, but more than that, it sent a signal. If you drag them into a grind, they don't just rise above it anymore. Then the schedule turned ruthless. Next up, San Antonio. Same opponent, same bad memory. It wasn't just another game, it was a test. People wanted proof the first loss was a fluke, just an off night. Instead, it looked familiar. The Spurs didn't edge them out, and they controlled it. 130-110, worse than before. OKC looked uncomfortable, out of sync. Sets that once flowed smoothly stalled out. Driving lanes vanished. Passes felt forced. Every possession looked like hard labor instead of rhythm. It wasn't just a loss. It felt like doubt creeping in, possession by possession. Then came Christmas, the perfect stage for a comeback. National TV, bright lights, the ideal moment to remind everyone who they were. The story felt ready. Bounce back, make a statement, show the league they still ran things. Instead, San Antonio handled business again. 117-102. That's when it stopped feeling random. It started looking like a pattern. What was brushed off as a bad matchup began to look like a clear blueprint. The Spurs didn't just win, they exposed the soft spots, and once that blueprint is out, the whole league studies it. OKC tried to steady things after that. They picked up a few solid wins and looked sharp again for stretches. The ball moved well. The rhythm came back. When they locked in, they could still overwhelm teams quickly, but the edge wasn't the same. The question shifted from can they win to can they control games the way they used to? That quiet intimidation the pressure teams felt before tip-off started fading. Close games didn't feel automatic anymore. They felt tense. They felt earned. Then Phoenix tested them again. Tight matchup, late game pressure. These were usually the nights OKC shut the door without drama. This time the Suns stayed right there. Possession after possession, no breathing room. And under that pressure, OKC slipped just enough. 108-105. Not a meltdown, just a sharp reminder that they weren't untouchable. 4 losses in that stretch. Minnesota once, San Antonio twice, Phoenix closing it out. None felt accidental. Each chipped away at the same idea that OKC was operating above everyone else. They're still elite and dangerous, but the mystique shifted. The league stopped seeing them as inevitable and started seeing them as beatable.
Other teams, I think, do not fear the Thunder in the way that they did, maybe at the beginning of the season.
The next game after that brutal stretch looked like the perfect setup for redemption. Across from OKC stood the Charlotte Hornets, the kind of team every contender circles as a get-right game. A night where starters coast, benches get minutes, and everyone expects an easy win. Add to that the fact that OKC was back home, and the script couldn't have been simpler. Crush Charlotte, reset the mood, and remind the league who's in charge. ESPN even gave them a 90% chance to win before the ball was tipped. That's how sure everyone was. But then, the unthinkable happened. Charlotte, a team that usually lives near the bottom of the standings, didn't just keep up, they dominated. What was supposed to be an automatic win turned into a full-blown embarrassment. The Thunder didn't just lose. They got blown out by almost 30 points in front of their home crowd. The team that once looked unstoppable now looked stunned, hesitant, and drained of the confidence that had carried them through the season's first months. Maybe it was fatigue, maybe it was arrogance, or maybe that early season dominance was hiding cracks all along. But whatever the reason, the narrative flipped completely. The team that had been hyped as the second coming of Jordan's Bulls or the KD Steph Warriors had just been humbled by the Charlotte freaking Hornets.
When you look at the Spurs are not afraid of that Thunder team, and they punched them in the mouth 3 of those times they played against them.
Since that first Spurs loss in the in-season tournament, the Thunder had now dropped 5 of their last 11 games. And if not for one extremely friendly whistle against the Jazz, it would have been even uglier. Utah took 21 free throws that night. OKC took 42. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander alone went to the line 19 times, almost as much as the entire Jazz team. That's not grit or resilience. That's a bailout. It's wild to think how fast things changed. Just a month earlier, Vegas had OKC projected to win over 74 games. Analysts were talking about history. Fans were betting real money that this team would become a dynasty in real time. But within 30 days, that magic evaporated. The Thunder went from untouchable to uncertain, from intimidating to inconsistent, and the fans felt it too. Social media turned cold. The hype became doubt. As one fan put it perfectly, ever since they played the Spurs, they lost all their confidence and cockiness. You could see it on the court. The swagger was gone. The joy was gone. What once looked like destiny now looked like struggle. OKC was still elite on paper, still capable of beating anyone, but that aura, that myth of invincibility was gone. And once the league senses that, everything changes. Teams stop fearing you and start hunting you. And right now, everyone's hunting Oklahoma City. After that Hornets disaster, OKC did what great teams usually do. They steadied themselves. They regrouped, focused up, and started stacking wins again. It wasn't dominant basketball like before, but it was enough to quiet the noise. They survived Memphis by just a single point. Not exactly convincing, but a win's a win. The standings started to look normal again, and for a brief moment, it felt like the Thunder had calmed the storm. But then, the pattern started creeping back. The losses returned, and this time, the details mattered. Miami was the first sting, a 122-120 heartbreaker. 2 points, 1 possession, the kind of game OKC used to control with their eyes closed. Earlier in the season, they always found a way. A key stop, a dagger three, a burst of momentum that ended the conversation. But this one slipped through, just barely. And in stories like this, barely is the difference between dominance and doubt. Next came Indiana, and it felt like deja vu. 117-114. Another narrow loss, another missed chance to remind everyone who they were. One bad decision, one broken play, and another game gone. Then Toronto hit them again, 103-101. 2 points. Another game that could have been theirs. These weren't blowouts. They were heartbreakers. The kind of losses that eat at a team's confidence. Every missed free throw, every lazy rotation, every possession where OKC looked hesitant suddenly became the story. These were the kinds of games they used to own. Now, they were losing them in bunches. Minnesota didn't even bother with the suspense. 123-111. No last-second shot, no late-game tension, just 4 quarters of getting outplayed. The Timberwolves didn't need luck, they just needed to keep the game physical. OKC couldn't flip the switch anymore, and everyone watching could feel it. And so, sure, the Thunder were still winning enough to stay near the top. The season wasn't collapsing, but those losses kept whispering the same truth. OKC wasn't inevitable anymore. The fear was fading. Teams weren't backing down. They were hunting. Then February hit, and the reason for it all became clear. February 4th, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went down. That's when everything shifted. With Shai, OKC had order. Without him, they had chaos. They weren't bad, just normal. A good team that could still beat anyone but could also absolutely get punched in the mouth when the rhythm fell apart. And the results showed it instantly. Over the next 6 games, they lost 3. For most teams, that's just a rough stretch. For OKC, the greatest ever conversation team, that was an identity crisis. They opened that run by smashing Orlando 128-92 at home, almost like they were trying to prove to the world and themselves that nothing had changed. But when they went to San Antonio, reality hit hard again, 116-106. Without Shai's poise, OKC looked disorganized. The offense sputtered, possessions got sloppy, and the defense couldn't plug the leaks. What used to feel like control now looked like confusion. OKC was still stacked with talent, still dangerous, but the magic was gone. The aura that once made them feel inevitable, untouchable, had vanished. They weren't the monster from November anymore. They were just another team trying to find their footing. Then Houston got them too, 112-106, and that one hit differently. It wasn't a random off night. It was the kind of loss that doesn't happen when a team's fully themselves. Houston didn't get lucky. They just played tough, stayed patient, and waited for OKC's offense to start wandering, like it was searching for someone to take control. Without Shai, that someone wasn't there. OKC tried to answer. They beat the Lakers in LA, then handled Phoenix. It looked like things were steady again, like they still had enough firepower to survive. But then Milwaukee walked into their arena and exposed everything, 110-93. That score told the truth. By the third quarter, OKC looked drained. No rhythm, no leadership, no control. The fight was gone, and the engine that used to carry them had stalled. 3 losses in 6 games doesn't sound like much, but for OKC, it revealed everything. Their whole identity was built around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's control, his calm, his pace, his ability to turn chaos into structure. Without him, OKC wasn't broken. They were just normal, and that was the real problem. The league didn't need to solve them anymore. They just had to play.
They were 24-1 at that point. I thought they were going to win 75 games. I was saying the Thunder are definitely locks to win a championship. Right now, since then, they've been 18-13. The three-point shooting has fallen off a bit. SGA's injured. I have concerns about J-Dub and that health.
Even with all the slips and injuries, OKC still sits at 42-14, technically first in the West. But the shine's faded. The wins feel harder, the dominance less convincing. You can sense the pressure creeping in. San Antonio's right there at 38-16, a team that's already proven they can drag OKC into the mud. And Denver, steady at 35-20, waiting for the playoffs where patience wins. Across the league, OKC isn't even number 1 anymore. That spot belongs to Detroit at 40-13, and that changes the whole historic season story. A month ago, OKC was the team everyone thought would lap the league. Now, they're the ones being chased. Boston's climbing too at 35-19, sitting like a reminder that the real season doesn't start until the spring. Because in the NBA, nobody remembers your start. They remember how you finish. So no, OKC hasn't fallen apart. But now they have to defend the spot they once ruled effortlessly. Being number 1 when everyone fears you is easy. Being number 1 when everyone believes they can take you down, that's the real test. Here's what really happened to OKC. And no, it wasn't one big, they got exposed moment. It was a slow unraveling, piece by piece, until the team that looked immortal started to feel human again. The biggest reason? Health. Early in the season, OKC wasn't just talented, they were stable. Same starting five, same rotations, same intensity every single night. That consistency built chemistry, and chemistry built dominance. But once January turned to February, the cracks started showing. Shai's abdominal injury grabbed headlines, but it didn't stop there. Jalen Williams battled his own issues, Hartenstein missed time, Chet Holmgren dealt with recurring back spasms, and even the glue guys, Caruso, Dort, weren't consistently available. That's devastating for a team like OKC because their entire identity depends on rhythm and defensive synergy. Their strength isn't just talent, it's timing. They win by closing gaps, rotating perfectly, and turning every possession into a war of energy. But take out even one or two key players, and that machine starts stuttering. The closeouts come late. The help defense lags, the rebounding slips. Suddenly, the difference between crushing opponents and barely surviving comes down to a handful of missed rotations. Then there's the adjustment factor. The league doesn't let you stay on cruise control when you start 24-1. You stop getting regular season effort, you start getting playoff level prep every single night. Teams study you like you're the finals opponent. They get physical, take away your favorite actions, and test your depth. And as that happens, the magic numbers start fading. Those threes that fell in November, they start rattling out in February. The hot shooting cools, the efficiency dips, and suddenly you're not blowing teams out. You're fighting for every possession. Once that margin shrinks, your mystique does too. Add in the schedule and fatigue, and the picture gets even clearer. The Thunder opened the year playing with historic urgency, chasing ghosts of 70-win seasons. That pace takes a toll, not just on bodies, but on minds. You can't live in every night is a statement mode for 6 months. When the first ugly loss hits, especially one that feels humiliating, it shifts everything. The joy fades, the grind starts, the talk of breaking records turns into, let's just stay healthy. The analytics world picked up on it fast. Once OKC dropped a few, the 74 wins projections evaporated overnight, because that dream only exists when everything is perfect. And then comes the truth that fans never like hearing. Priorities change. When you're at the top, you start thinking about the bigger picture. Load management sneaks in. Players get held out when they're 80%. Rotations get shuffled, coaches experiment. Before you know it, you're watching OKC on the court. But it's not that OKC, not the monster that tore through November. Some of those losses weren't about being outplayed, they were just about survival. So, what's the real story? OKC didn't get exposed. They just hit the reality wall that every would-be historic team eventually meets.
So you look at this and you got trouble across Oklahoma City, and that's all my preamble of saying, still taking the Thunder. Because I still think at the highest level, when they put their stuff together, their ceiling is higher than everybody else's. And I think they were battle-tested last year and have shown that they can do it. They haven't been, for the team for the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, they haven't been the team they were when they started 24-1. But it's not like any of these injuries are season-ending. It's not like we doubt that they can get back to that level. So look, if we get to May and they're still missing multiple starters, then we're going to have a different conversation. But because I believe they can get back to health, and because I believe I know what their ceiling is, Stephen A., I will accept all the stock anybody wants to sell me for the Thunder.
Injuries, adjustments, fatigue, the three forces that humble everyone. When they're healthy, they're still championship caliber. The defense still suffocates, the system still works. But this stretch proved one thing loud and clear: that aura of invincibility wasn't magic. It was rhythm, health, and Shai's control. Take that away, even for a few weeks, and OKC stops looking like a myth. They look like what they truly are: a great team, not a perfect one. And that's the difference between chasing history and simply living in it. So what do you think really happened to OKC? Was it all about the injuries and fatigue catching up? Or do you think teams finally figured them out? Maybe that spark from earlier in the season was never meant to last this long. I'm genuinely curious. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I really want to hear your take on this whole story, and I'm honestly thankful for every opinion. Thanks for watching and riding through this journey with me. If you enjoyed diving into the rise and fall of the Thunder, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Ball Stories. It helps a ton and keeps these deep dives coming. And if you're still hooked, don't go anywhere. There's plenty more drama, untold stories, and wild NBA twists waiting for you right here on the channel. Go check out the next one. You won't want to miss it. Catch you next time. Peace.